This video is kindly brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to create a beautiful online presence. Hi, my name's Janelle and welcome back to Rosery Apparel. Today I'm back with another sewing projects video. In this video, I'm going to be sharing 5 quick and easy sewing projects, and each of the projects I'll be sharing would actually make really nice DIY gifts. So if you're looking for some handmade gift ideas this holiday season, then hopefully you'll find this video helpful. First up, let me show you how to make this super handy sewing kit. For this project, you'll need a main fabric, a lining fabric, and a thin wadding type fabric to give the sewing kit a little bit of padding. First up, you'll need to cut a large rectangle from each of the different fabrics that measure 44 centimeters by 23 centimeters or 17.5 inches by 9 inches. Then you will also need to cut out 2 smaller rectangles from each fabric that measure 23 by 14 centimeters or 9 by 5.5 inches. You are also going to need approximately half a meter or half a yard of bias binding. Start by taking the smaller rectangles and with the wrong sides of the fabrics facing, place the wadding onto the lining fabric and then place the main fabric onto the wadding fabric. Then take your bias binding and fold and pin it in place along the raw edge of one of the longer sides, making sure to sandwich all of the fabric layers together. Stitch the bias binding in place like this. Then repeat this process so that you have 2 identical pieces that look like this. These are going to be pockets for the sewing kit. Next, take the larger fabric rectangles and place the lining piece onto the wadding piece, making sure that the right side of the fabric is facing up. Then place the pockets that we just made onto the lining, matching the raw edges together. Now we're going to add some useful bits to the sewing kit, starting with a small rectangle of felt, which I position onto the center of the sewing kit. I also decided to add a couple pieces of elastic to hold things such as a seam ripper and a tape measure, and I basically stitched them in place, creating different channel widths to be able to hold a variety of different sewing tools. I also zigzagged the felt piece in place, and this is going to be really handy to hold things like needles and safety pins. Now that this is done, place the pockets back onto the lining rectangle, and then with the right side of the fabric facing, place the main fabric rectangle on top, lining up all of the raw edges together. Stitch all of the fabric layers together like this, making sure to leave an opening to be able to turn the sewing kit right side out. I actually found it best to use sewing clips for this part as the layers were starting to get pretty thick and yeah, pins just weren't cutting it anymore. For this project and all of the projects I'm sharing in this video, I'm using a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Once stitched, trim away the excess fabric and then turn the sewing kit right side out. Use something like a knitting needle to gently poke out the corners. And then give the sewing kit a good press with your iron. Top stitch along the outside edge like this, stitching the opening closed as you sew. Then lastly, to finish this sewing kit, we need to add a button closure. So simply stitch a buttonhole onto one side of the fabric rectangle. I've shared an in-depth video on how to sew buttonholes, which I'll have linked below if you're new to all of this. And once the buttonhole is complete, hand sew the button in place on the opposite side, being very careful not to accidentally sew the pockets shut. And your adorable sewing kit is complete. Before we get into the next project, let's just take a quick break to talk about the sponsor of this video. This video has been very kindly sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to create a beautiful online presence and launch your passion project. Whether you'd like to start making and selling your own products, create a beautiful portfolio to showcase your work, write a blog, or simply create any website of any kind, you can design and create your dream website all by yourself with Squarespace. You simply select from their range of beautifully designed templates, and then you can customize the template you've chosen as much or as little as you like. You can change everything from the overall layout of the website to all the fun things like the fonts and colors with just a few clicks, no background or knowledge needed in coding whatsoever. And if you've been watching my videos for a while now, you'll know that I am a huge fan of Squarespace and have personally been using Squarespace to run the Rosery Apparel website and online store since 2016. And when I first sat down to design my website, I had a very clear idea what sort of features and elements I wanted my website to include, and I literally was able to design the entire thing in one afternoon, and this is all thanks to their super easy drag and drop system that they have on the back end of the website. You simply can just click and drag elements to your website. It is as simple as that, and I'm not even that tech savvy, but if I can do it, anybody can. So if you'd like to create a website of your own, then head to squarespace.com using the link in the description below and take advantage of their free trial so you can test out just how easy it is to use for yourself. And then when you're ready to launch your beautiful new website, head to squarespace.com/roseryapparel for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to the sewing projects. Next, let me show you how to make these cute ruffled pajama shorts. I've actually shared the full making process and free sewing pattern for these shorts in a separate video, which I'll have linked below, and follow all of the steps in that video until just before hemming the bottom of the shorts, which should look a little something like this. Measure the leg opening of your shorts. For example, for this project I made a size 8 and my leg opening measurement was 68 centimeters or 26 3/4 inches. Then cut 2 rectangles from the fabric you'd like your ruffle to be made from that measure 8 centimeters or 3 inches by the leg opening measurement times 2, which for me was 136 centimeters or 53.5 inches. With right sides together, fold the rectangles in half and sew them into a loop along the shorter edge like this. Then hem along one side of the fabric rectangles. Next, change the stitch length of your sewing machine to the longest possible setting, and then sew 2 rows of gathering stitches along the non-hemmed edge. Gently pull on the top 2 threads to gather up the fabric until it's the same size as the leg opening of the shorts. Then with the right sides together, pin the gathered ruffle to the bottom edge of the shorts. Stitch the ruffle in place, and then overlock or zigzag stitch along the raw edges to prevent them from fraying. Then lastly, remove any exposed gathering stitches with a seam ripper. And your cute ruffled pajama shorts are complete. Next up, let me show you how to make these quick and easy bows. I've made a free template that you can use to make this project, and you can find a link to it in the description below this video. And start out by cutting 2 pieces of the template along the fold of your fabric. Then with the right sides together, stitch the pieces together, making sure to leave a small opening like this. Trim away the excess fabric, and then turn the bow right side out. This part does take a fair bit of patience and time, and is by far the most time-consuming part of this whole project. Once finally folded right side out, use a knitting needle to gently poke the points out, and then give the bow a good press. Lastly, top stitch along the entire outside edge of the bow, making sure to sew the opening closed as you stitch, and then tie your bow up. You can tie these onto a hair tie as a cute little hair accessory, and I personally like to tie them up in my Christmas tree at Christmas time. Next, let's make this cute quilted pincushion. For this project, you will need 3 different similarly weighted fabrics. Start by cutting a rectangle from 2 of your fabrics that measure 12.5 by 7 centimeters or 5 by 2 3/4 inches. With right sides together, stitch the 2 rectangles together like this. Next, cut the now stitched square in half and position the rectangles in such a way so that the different fabric prints are opposite one another. Then stitch the rectangles together, again with right sides together, like this. Once stitched, press the seams open and you should now have a square of fabric that looks like this. Next, cut out a matching square from your 3rd fabric. Then with right sides together, place the new square onto the stitched square. Mark out a 1 centimeter seam allowance directly onto your square like this with a water erasable pen or some tailor's chalk, and then also mark out an X between the points of the square like this. Stitch along the marked out seam allowance. Then snip the fabric along the X we marked out earlier, which once folded out will reveal the quilted square. Press the folded edges and trim away the excess fabric so that it looks like this. Then cut out another fabric square that matches this new stitched square. And then with the right sides together, place the 2 squares of fabric together and stitch them together like this. Trim away the excess fabric, and then turn the pincushion right side out. Fill up the pincushion with some hobby feel until it is nice and firm. And then hand stitch the opening closed. Lastly, let me show you how to make a statement scrunchie. For this project, you'll need your fabric of choice. I'm just using some cotton fabric for mine. You will also need a meter or a yard of lace trim and approximately 20 centimeters or 7.5 inches of thin elastic. Start by cutting out a rectangle from your fabric that measures 6 by 50 centimeters or 2.5 by 20 inches. Then cut your lace trim in half so that you have 2 50 centimeter pieces. Place one of the trim pieces along one edge of the fabric rectangle and stitch it in place like this. Then repeat this for the other side. Press the seam so that the trim is sitting out flat. Then fold the rectangle of fabric in half with the right sides of the fabric facing and sew together along the shorter edge like this. Next, with wrong sides together, fold the rectangle in half lengthways and press it in place. Then stitch the folded rectangle together along the fabric edge, leaving a small opening like this. Next, cut a 20 centimeter or 7.5 inch length of elastic and attach one end of the elastic onto a safety pin. Use the safety pin to thread the elastic into the opening, and as you thread the elastic through, the fabric will start to gather up. Once thread all the way through, tie the ends of the elastic together into a double knot. And then sew the opening closed. And your adorable statement scrunchie is complete. So I hope you enjoyed this video and that you've now got some new sewing project ideas to try. If you do have a go at making any of the projects I've shared in this video, then I would love to see them. So be sure to tag me at @Rosery Apparel when you share your photos on Instagram. I have shared a whole bunch of these sewing project videos on my channel already, so I'll leave the entire playlist linked down below if you'd like even more sewing project ideas. Thank you so much for watching this video until the very end, and I'll see you in the next one.